thanks everyone for coming today. Thank you to our speakers for agreeing to do this, and thank you for everyone who is showing up on this rainy morning. We're going to start the presentation by giving a brief introduction to who I am and what BCLA is. So, my name is Oscar. I am the current president of BCLA, or Biotech Connection Los Angeles. I am a fourth-year graduate student at USC, and I've been with BCLA for about 2 years. So we are a project of the 501c nonprofit community partners. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and connect emerging scientists and entrepreneurs to grow the biotech scene in Los Angeles. And we do this with the help of our core sponsors, USC Michelson Center, the Magnify Institute at CNSI, Bioscience LA, Amgen, KGI, and Stewart Leadership. Us that do this, we are a team comprised of grad students, undergrads, postdocs, and early career professionals from various institutions across the city. And we all kind of share a passion to accelerate the growth of the biotech scene in LA. And so you can see here at the bottom that there's a lot of, this is not an exhaustive list, but we have a lot of institutions represented at or in our team. And here's some pictures from our teams. We host, this is from our Biotech Summit last October, holiday party, an internal event at Topgolf. So we have a lot of fun together. We try to achieve our mission by putting on events throughout the year. And so our all of our events fall within one of these three bubbles. We try to educate, inspire, and connect. And so we educate through events like this, seminars and career development workshops. We inspire entrepreneurship by kind of giving founders a platform to share their story and talk to grad students who might be interested in going into entrepreneurship. And we also offer a lot of mentorship opportunities. And primarily, our job is to connect industry with academia. We do this by putting on networking mixers, happy hours, and career fairs. So in the next few months, we have 2 events planned. Sort of as an extension of this innovation event, we have a networking mixer at LA Biospace. This is going to be on April 27th, Thursday, between 5 and 9. The focus on this event is going to be more tech transfer and licensing out of universities. So how do you spin a company out of your academic research? This is usually a very fun event. We also have our second flagship event for the year coming up, which is our healthcare symposium. The topic for this year is going to be on biologic therapeutics. So biologics obviously are becoming much more relevant in the last 10 years. What's the future looking like, and what are some of the hurdles we need to overcome? It's going to be on May 5th between 6 and 9 p.m. And we are excited to have secured David Reese, who's the Executive Vice President of Research and Development at Amgen, as our keynote speaker. And so I'll put both of the RSVP links for these events in the chat, so you can all RSVP if you're interested. But enough about that. Oh, sorry, one more thing. If you're interested in keeping up with us, not only the events we put on, but also the events our partners put on, please consider subscribing to our newsletter. We have almost 9,000 subscribers now, and we want to try to get that to 10,000 at the end of the year, if that's possible. But with that said, now we're going to focus on the event for today. It's titled Innovation Series, Federal Undiluted Funding for Startups. I'm going to hand it over to Jim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Cooper. I am CTO and co-founder at Braid Theory. We're a vertically integrated venture advisory focused on oceans and the blue economy, but also all the adjacencies, including energy. So any kinds of emerging technologies. We run accelerator programs and we help startups from a very early stage. Today, we've got a great panel going to be discussing federal undiluted funding for startups. I'll just go through essentially what we're going to do today first before I introduce the panelists. I'm going to give each of the panelists some time to talk about what they're working on, and give everyone a chance to put some questions into the chat. And while you're doing that, I will and we'll save those for last after the presentations. I will ask a couple of questions while we to get the full panoply of questions through, and then I'll moderate those questions to the panelists. We'll try and give you all the participants a chance to ask some questions. So without any further ado, I'll introduce everyone. Gunjan Siroya, Director and Senior Advisor at Larta Institute. Lata provides commercialization assistance to startups with that have funding from external sources, including SPIR. Rupak Doshi, founder and CEO of OmniSync, a VC and Air Force-backed software company that uses AL and NLP-powered text matching. And Rupak will talk about their flagship product, Turbo SPIR, I'm sure. And finally, we have Erik Pierstorff, who is SPIR STTR Program Director at the National Science Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
So, Gunjan, why don't we start with you and your presentation. Go ahead when you're ready.
Great. Well, thank you very much to BCLA for inviting Lata and myself to be part of this panel. Thank you, Jim, for the kind introduction. My name is Gunjan Siroya, and I'm going to share a little bit about Lata. The only purpose today is to give you an idea of what resources are available from Lata to help companies, innovators, startups, whether it's early stage, pre-company formation, post-company formation, into getting into dilutive or non-dilutive funding. What are the things or resources available for you? We're going to talk about that. So with that, Lata is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit organization founded in 1993. And since then, it's helped over 4,500 startups, innovators in deep sciences, many of them in the healthcare, biosciences, life sciences space. Our tagline is really feed, fuel, and heal the world, and I'm going to talk about why we say that. Lata has delivered impacts, and these are measured in terms of the number of startups, which is more than 4,500, the number of science and technologies that we have commercialized, which is over 6,000, really bringing about non-dilutive funding of more than $4.5 billion. And in addition to that, a follow-on private investment raised by our portfolio of companies, which is over $2 billion. Our mission, and Lata is a mission-oriented organization, so our mission is to foster science and technology innovation, all for a sustainable planet. There are 6 distinct areas, and only these areas that we really focus on when it comes to our mission, starting with environment and climate, agriculture and food, clean tech and energy, bioscience and healthcare, education and community, and marine and oceans. In addition to these mission areas, Lata has helped organizations in various other topics and areas, but from a mission perspective, from a tracking perspective, from a targeted perspective, we focus on these 6 areas. What we bring to the table is not only our capability and expertise, but also an ecosystem. Now, this is a very busy slide, so I'm going to start from the left, where we bring in more than 125 plus experienced experts and mentors that work with you, startup companies, to address your commercialization, your business challenges as you go through from pre-concept all the way to being a successful, sustainable business, creating your innovation, deploying your innovation to the marketplace. We achieve that. In addition to providing the business expertise, we also bring in partners. And with 6,000 plus alumni partners, ventures that have gone through, we bring that network together to help new startups get the right mentorship. We also have partnership with academic institutions, large corporations, government and federal agencies as well, and also investor community. That includes venture capitalists, foundations, etc., that can provide other sorts of funding. Lastly, we are also connected with and work with other impact organizations in driving overall sustainability goals of our organization. For more information, you can certainly also look at our additional ecosystem data or content that includes events, podcasts, webinars, etc. And I'm going to share this. This link would be clickable, so you could reach out to us if you need to connect with us. One of the first programs I'm going to talk about is Heal.LA, and that's most relevant given that many of you are in the biosciences, life sciences space. Heal.LA has 3 pillars, and we operate this in 2 cities today with plans to expand to many more. The 2 cities are Los Angeles and Miami. And the pillars are really to build an inclusive community, as well as focus on the bioscience and healthcare accelerator that we have developed over the past year and a half, and also to focus on the talent and workforce within the biosciences, within the healthcare industry segment. We achieve the goals by 3 guiding principles that apply to all these 3 pillars, starting with identifying the real problems within the underserved local communities, starting with LA and Miami, and to nurture the communities and the innovators to build innovations, whether it's pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, whether it's med devices, healthcare software, to address primarily the entire community, but focused on the underserved community. So we are really enabling the ability for startup companies to scale in a very niche industry segment, which is broadly speaking the biosciences space, in these cities targeted towards outcomes that can not only address the community needs, but also the underserved communities. The second program that we have is called the Venture Fellows Program. That's also targeted towards underserved, focusing into, again, 2 markets, starting with the LA market, getting into Miami as well, and then others. And this is, again, a funded program funded by Wells Fargo, where we're enabling startup organizations to focus on climate issues where it could be where they could be an impact from climate change, or this could be where building resilience because of climate change, so that they can actually foster and grow not only their communities, but new business opportunities as well. And so again, here, what we do is we empower diverse innovators really to focus on the green economy, the new economy that the country is moving towards. Now, the big question in your mind would be, where does Lata's SPIR STTR experience come in? So we're going to talk quickly about that. So Lata started advising SPIR STTR companies back in 2003. And our approach is really to help companies from once you get the phase 1 award all the way to phase 3. Phase 1 is where you're not applied, but you're planning to apply for SPIR STTR. And my colleague and panelist here, Rupak, is going to talk more about that. But then we come in to help you with your commercialization strategy during your phase 1, which is typically a 6 to 12-month project, depending on the agency you apply this funding for. And then we continue helping you during your phase 2, helping you build your business strategy, your go-to-market strategy, your execution plans, including, if there is FDA involvement for a 510K, for an IND, to provide all of the support that you need there. And then lastly, taking you to a successful, sustainable business with phase 3. Larta has 2 specific approaches to deliver these, and we've been doing this with several agencies, starting with NIH back in 2003, then working with NSF as well. And we've been doing this collaborating with the agencies that provide SPIR, STTR funding with the help of specific programs or with the help of niche offerings that we have. The specific programs are called the commercialization assistance programs, also called the accelerator programs. And we've been working with NIH and NSF in these areas for a long time. Today, we are working with DOE, we are working with USDA and NOAA, helping through the CAP programs to help the startup companies, innovators that have received SPIR and STTR funding in developing their commercialization plans. In addition to that, there is another opportunity called the TABA, which is Technical and Business Assistance, another way in which companies can work with us if they are not part of the CAP programs. And this is where we help companies again in building their strategies. Lata has been recognized by with the Tibbetts Award, again in the excellence and in support of the SBIR and STTR program. A little bit about Lata's heritage with NIH. So we started working with NIH since 2004. We started with the Commercialization Accelerator Program as the sole contractor. We also delivered training to other sub-agencies within NIH, which is FDA, CMS, and others, as well as working with a gamut of industries within the life sciences or the biosciences sector. That includes biotech, pharmaceutical, med devices, digital health, and diagnostics. And here in the center are some outcomes or impacts that we measured. This is not a full list, but just a partial list of what we captured. Similarly, Lata has worked with NSF companies. We advise phase 1 awardees in the SBIR, STTR space, where we help companies in the Commercialization Acceleration Program. Over 1,000 companies, and growing is the number that we have. And at peak, we actually helped 200 awardees per year, helping them build their commercialization plan, which is an important component for you to get the phase 2 award. Today, we have, as I mentioned, 5 active programs. We have the Department of Energy, the NOAA, the USDA. We also have yield.LA, which is not related directly to the SBIR, STTR, but outside. And today, Lata is building and developing and launching in this year a seed and Series A capital investment accelerator program as well. I think my colleague Rupak mentioned that he's going to talk a little bit more about the SBIR, STTR, so I'm going to limit my conversation here and give him a chance to speak on that, as well as Erik, who's going to cover NSF. But there are some details here on this slide if you would like to look back at the recording at a later point in time. These are some of the things that we do in terms of services, like business strategy, to product development, to sales and marketing, to regulatory, to IP, and others. And these are delivered through a network of experts and mentors that we have in place. So with that, I'll pass the baton back to you, Jim. Thank you very much. And looking forward to your questions.
All right, thank you very much, Gunjan. I'm going to move this across to Rupak now. Rupak, are you ready?
Yep.
Excellent.
Let me know if you guys can see my screen with the right background. Hopefully not a blue background completely. Okay. Cool. So my name is Rupak Doshi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of OmniSync. We're based in San Diego. And we're essentially a software company at heart, at core, but we also provide a lot of human support for our customers. And so some folks like to call us a software-enabled service. Some folks like to call us a software with a human touch. All kinds of flavors are out there. But at the core, we are always technology folks, and you'll see why in a minute.
I'm sorry, Rupak. You're not showing your PowerPoint slide. You're showing your home screen, I think.
It's a blank blue screen. Got it. So I did share the wrong screen.
I think so. Sorry. I confused you.
How about this?
There you go. Now it's,
okay.
It's still blue. But
sorry, I have 3 screens and I still have the wrong screen. In a nutshell, OmniSync is a tech company, and we actually have we serve multiple markets and across with multiple products as well. One of the best known products that we have in the market is Turbo SPR, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But just for the audience to know that we do have other products that we serve other kinds of markets for. And we have, we're actually a prototypical SPR company from what the Congress likes to see, because we are VC backed, we have SPR funding through various agencies, and we've been successfully able to get through to a phase 3 transition as well. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. But at heart, we're always technology folks who have the desire to have every innovation, no matter how big or small it is, to have it reach to its optimum and outcome, however big or small that may be. And so that's kind of where we take off in our product landscape. So just a very quick background about myself, so you know, from where my thoughts and ideologies come from. So I have a PhD in pharmacology, came out here to San Diego to do a postdoc. And after that, went into industry and worked as a scientist at Innovators for about 3 years. And that company actually went public, which was a really nice experience to be part of in some way. And alongside that career, I've also had a couple of startups on the side that have been reasonably successful. And OmniSync is is the startup that we currently have, and that has been around for about 3.5 years. I was telling you how we're a prototypical startup in terms of the SPR world, and so this is why I say that. So we actually ourselves have received 2 phase 1s, both transitioned to a phase 2, and we also have a phase 3 award now from the Department of Energy. And we've done this across multiple agencies, which is also really, really good to see. In addition to which, we also have VC funding. And all of that is for the technologies that we are building, which at its core essentially is a matchmaking and discovery engine. And what that means is something I'll get to in the future. But we have had a lot of experience across multiple agencies. And with that comes a level of diligence when we build our products. So folks who do work with us, they kind of are able to see that. This is kind of how, where we sit in the marketplace, I guess, if you will. So this is, I mean, if you think about an innovation marketplace, that truly doesn't really exist. The closest you can get to is something like a Crunchbase or PitchBook, and that's very one-sided. But we're truly two-sided, where we actually have different products that serve different sides of this innovation marketplace, where we have innovation sellers, we call, innovators, or they're trying to sell something that they've developed in some way. And on the other side, we have innovation seekers or scouts, if you will. And that's kind of where we sit somewhere there in the middle, trying to bridge this gap between the two. And the first thing that we've done really well throughout the last 3.5 years is using this product called Turbo SPR that we've built to bridge startups with government funding to support early stage R&D. So what Turbo SPR is essentially is that it is a TurboTax style software combined with services brought in at the right time, so that the overall costs of support actually come down compared to market rates. That's basically in a nutshell what it is. And the reason we did this was because when we started this company, we wanted to solve some of the issues that we had faced as founders coming from university backgrounds where we had tech that we wanted to transition out. And we had faced certain problems, and we kept hearing the same issues from lots of different innovators who were coming out of the kind of backgrounds that we have. And that's basically that either there were 2 options to get help on SPR. So you either spend a whole lot of time on YouTube trying to figure it out yourself, or you basically pay someone so much money that at that point, you might as well not need the grant at all. If you could afford that much money for a chance to win. So that's kind of where we saw all the other industries out there had figured out this middle path where a software system or a tool could help bridge a lot of the work that otherwise gets done manually and gets paid for with a lot of money. And then you can still bring in the expert at the right time to make it a lot more affordable, because now you're actually working more collaboratively as opposed to like a hands-off, done for you, fully outsourced service, which has its own issues. And so that's where we built TurboTax style software and services for the SPR world. And the analogy came from the fact that we wanted to have all agencies and all proposals available from the one place, very similar to how with TurboTax, you can file across all states from one place. That was kind of the analogy. And that's always been our goal, to not have innovators having to go to 50 million places to find information. All the information about all the different agencies and all programs should be available from one spot. And we felt that some of the sites out there that were trying to do this were not doing it as well as I think they could have done. And so we built this, and essentially it's a full search to submit system where you go from finding opportunities across all agencies, and we use a lot of AI to match the different kinds of opportunities with the capabilities that startups have. Then it goes through a proposal preparation process, which is a TurboTax style system. You go step by step with preparing every portion of the proposal. And there also, every step, we have a lot of guidance and tools to help build that out, which is really helpful especially for folks who are doing this for the first time. And then it goes through a submission process where we walk entrepreneurs through every single step of how a submission is done in a compliant way to minimize errors due to administrative steps, which typically is a pretty bad thing when that happens, because then the proposals get denied for no fault of the innovator, but just something that they missed to do. With that system, we've actually had now upwards of 9,000, if I'm not wrong, people on it, which is pretty substantial compared to, I mean, if you think about the numbers, like I think the last numbers I saw was that there were 20,000 proposals even submitted across all agencies back in, I think, 2017 or 2018 is the last data set that we saw. And for our system to already have upwards of 3,000 proposals coming through, that's a pretty substantial percentage of what's out there. So we have been able to do a very good job. And yes, we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we are much better than you having to struggle it out all by yourselves. And with that, we've done a pretty good job at helping a lot of these innovators kind of cut costs, still get stuff done, and still do it in a way that it's somewhat efficient compared to having to do everything yourself. And with that said, I'll kind of just very quickly walk people through the SPR program. It's just real basics. This session is not enough time to cover everything about it, but just to give some context to folks who are in the audience who might not know a lot about it. So the SPR program runs in 3 phases in general across all agencies. The first phase really is analogous to a pre-seed investment. What's different, of course, is there's no equity and there's no loan repayments or whatever. This is purely a grant or a contract, which is completely non-dilutive to the company's cap table and debt. And so the phase 1 really is for testing out the feasibility of your ideas. You have an idea, you've done some initial theory work on it, but phase 1 is really where you test whether there's any merits. Does the idea have any legs to it for it to run, right? That can be anywhere between 3 to 12 months, depending on the agency, can be anywhere between 75 to 275K standard, whereas now some agencies do offer higher amounts than that. So you can go up to actually 400K, given the right topic, given the right agency at a phase 1 stage. And after that, you get to a phase 2, which now you're talking about big bucks. There's a lot more money involved, a lot more time, because phase 2 is for you to demonstrate that your idea, whatever you did feasibility on, it actually works in some sort of a real world scenario. So phase 2 is really for developing your prototype, showing that it works in in either one specific application that you've identified as the first one, or in a couple of different kinds of applications, so that then you can test which way you want to go towards commercialization. That's the phase 2. So at the end of a phase 2, it is expected that a startup technology is ready for prime time. It is ready for implementation in some way at the end of a phase 2. So that's kind of how you want to gauge whether you're ready to start a phase 1. So think about the timelines and think about, okay, in 2-3 years, can this technology be ready for prime time? And the technology, the version of it, which is highly differentiated, not if you already have something working out there, then basically that's not enough. Then you haven't done enough work in terms of R&D to justify the kind of money and investment to get it to being market ready. That's kind of how you want to gauge on how ready you are for one of these phases. And then, like I said, phase 3 basically is, I mean, the synonym, the analogy to that is like a Series A, which basically is at that point, you're ready for prime time, you've commercialized it, you have some sort of product market fit at that point, because you've already done a lot of the commercialization work throughout your phase 2 as well, to assess whether your tech is ready for it. And at that point, you actually have a really good sole source justification to do this either with the government, or when it comes to the private sector or the commercial side, if your product is applicable outside of it, then you have a lot of bandwidth and leeway when it comes to negotiations with investors, or when it comes to getting through trials, stuff like that, because you've done a lot of the diligence work that's part of that. And I didn't mention this, but some agencies do have some sort of way to skip some of these phases if you're kind of in that zone, but I won't get into that. But that said, I think I will hand it back because I don't want to get into too much detail about the SPR program, and I'm happy to field any questions about this.
Great, thanks, Rupak. And finally, Erik, are you ready to share yours?
I am. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here. Thank you also for inviting me and for the introduction from the first two speakers today. I'm going to be talking specifically about NSF's SPIR STTR program. I'm just going to say SBIR. That encompasses the STTR aspect as well. I'm not going to differentiate between the two of them there. I'm going to provide a little context, specifically what NSF is looking for. And I'm going to share this slide here, which just kind of highlights the different government agencies and the fact that there are 11 of them out there that have SBIR programs. Now, each one has their own niche and its own focus. And so when you're thinking about who you want to apply to for some of this non-dilutive funding, you want to take that into account. So NSF is looking at its own niche. It doesn't have a specific focus of research and development that it focuses on, as long as it's focused on science and engineering. There are a couple different areas where NSF does not fund. The first is anything involving Schedule I substances. And the second one is any clinical trials. NSF does not support any clinical trials at all. And the reason I point this out in the different government agencies here is that NSF may not be a fit for you, but one of these other ones might be. So please consider that, and I'm going to walk through some of the processes where you can find out what NSF's fit and niche is. And so NSF is looking at very early stage startups, unproven technologies that have a significant amount of technical risk. And what this means is that someone who's skilled in the art may not be able to come up with a solution for that question. There's a part of the high risk aspect of what NSF funds is there's going to be things that don't work and fail. But this is the niche that NSF is looking for, that very early stage, high risk, high reward type of technologies. The things that we look for is the technical innovation, the intellectual merit, the commercial potential. Who else is out there? What is your advantage, competitive advantage that may be if you're able to successfully develop and commercialize this? How durable is that? And then the societal impact. If this is successful, how is this going to positively benefit society? In the health space, that's pretty obvious, but also in the biological technologies and pharmaceutical technology spaces that I cover in my portfolios, this could be environmental benefits. It could be food safety. There's lots of different ways that this can be impacted here. So I'll just read this. This is just kind of reiterating a lot of what I said. NSF's program is looking to fund groundbreaking, high impact, high risk technologies, transforming scientific discovery into products and services with commercial and potential and societal potential. A little bit different than what Rupak said. The vast majority of companies in my portfolios will not be ready for commercialization at the end of phase 2. They won't have a product. This is the very first stage of that proof of concept, showing that prototype in phase 1 and phase 2, and graduate from the program and move on to other dilutive and non-dilutive funding sources to get closer towards commercialization. Outside of biological technologies, you do have people who start to have some topics that have some commercialization, even during the phase 1 or phase 2, but within the life sciences, that's rare to see. So if you think you're early, that's okay. We want early stage, high risk technologies. So these numbers are from a couple of years ago. For those of you who may have heard, NSF has a new directorate and a bump in funding that is associated with that directorate. The SBIR program, its funding goes up with the amount of funding that NSF has. So this is from, I think, 2020. We had about 200 million, per year for funding small businesses. This has increased a little bit. The total amount is still in negotiation. One thing I will say about this new directorate, it's called the Technology Innovation and Partnerships Directorate, or TIP Directorate. And the SBIR program has migrated over there, as well as a couple other legacy programs. The whole point of this directorate is to take a use-inspired and translational approach to research. And so there's going to be a lot of other programs that are being started or moving over here that could impact startups. So please keep aware of that. Look into the TIP Directorate. Look at some of these other funding opportunities that are available here. I'm not going to touch upon any of them except for SBIR today, but there may be some others that may be of interest to you. This is a general breakdown of the areas that we fund. We put it into a nice little pie, to make it look like, hey, here we have life sciences, IT, electronics, etc. But really, these lines are very blurred. Now, I work closely with all of my colleagues in the program in NSF, and so my life sciences, colleagues that fund medical devices, biomedical technologies. I fund biological, pharmaceutical, but this also will have overlap with chemistry and environment and IoT. So it's not a strict delineated breakdown. And if you think that you may not fit in a specific topic, that's fine. We fund it doesn't matter. As long as you have your technology development is in science and engineering, we'll find a spot for you there. Some great details about what NSF funds and some statistics about it. More than half of all phase 1 proposals were from first-time applicants and had never received an award from any government agency. 95% of awards were awarded to startups with fewer than 10 employees. And 81% of all phase 1 awards went to startups established in the last 5 years. And when you're thinking about these, you want to consider what the eligibility is for applying to an SBIR program. You need to have fewer than 500 employees. And so the fact that NSF is funding primarily companies that are in that very small, very early stage, I think what emphasizes the niche that NSF is looking to fund in these cases. If you have a technology that's already been developed and then you're just modifying it to something that could open up a new commercial opportunity, not necessarily a great fit for NSF. We don't want to have incremental improvements. If you are a company that's raised a lot of money and you're coming to NSF, we're going to say, well, how impactful is that $275K for phase 1 going to be in a company that's raised a lot of money? You balance that with a company that hasn't raised any. And so that's the kind of niche that we're looking for here. Some other numbers here, about 2,200 awards were made to startups and small businesses from 2016 to 2020. There's been about 14 billion in follow-on equity financing since then, and there's been about 200 successful exits as defined by acquisitions, mergers, and IPOs. This is only the tip of the iceberg I see as to what the NSF program does. It also teaches on entrepreneurship. My first company failed, but I learned so much from that experience that my second company was a lot more successful. And so those are the type of educational opportunities that you can gain, from these programs as well. And this also doesn't quantify the societal benefits that a lot of these companies have been able to actually develop and see. So how does it work? Maybe this was touched upon a little bit. This is a phased approach. Phase 1 is $275K. There is no direct to phase 2. Only phase 1 awardees are able to apply to phase 2. Phase 2 is currently 2 years and $1 million, and there are a number of different supplemental opportunities that are available for phase 2 awardees, bringing the total amount up to about $2 million over the 2 phases, all non-dilutive. NSF has implemented something which is called a project pitch. This is different than the pitching to an investor. It's a web form. There's basically 4 boxes that you fill out, 500 words or so each. You talk about your team, the opportunity, your technology, and what technical development still needs to happen. This is a way to see how well you fit within a program. So I know there are a number of different SBIR programs that say, come and speak to your program officer, and they'll tell you everything what to do. For NSF, the first step is the project pitch. This is the first step for initiating communication. If you reach out to one of us prior to submitting a project pitch, we'll say, submit your pitch. And once we have that, we'll give you some information, and then we can continue on with that conversation. And what do we look for? Again, this is a little bit of repetition, the impact of what you're doing, what your technical innovation is, the market opportunity. Look at these different eligibilities. You need to have fewer than 500 employees. You have to be majority owned by US citizens or permanent residents. This is all defined by SBA here. And all the work must be done in the United States, and all the funding must be spent within the United States. There are PI eligibility requirements. You have to work primarily for the company. This is defined in a 40-hour work week, meaning you cannot work 19.6 hours or more for another employer and serve as a PI. You also need to be able to commit 1 month of effort for every 6 months of project prorated across that project. And this is just saying, like, these are all the different topics we have. This has actually changed since the slide was made. But again, don't worry about the fit. This is a non-exhaustive list. Please feel free to submit your project pitch. We'll work with you, figure out where it goes and what program director to talk to about submitting your actual proposal. A pitch, again, I already went over a lot of this. It's technical innovation, challenges, market opportunity, company, and team. You can submit your pitch at any time during the year. This does not coincide with the submission windows for submitting a full proposal. Your pitch is at 24/7, at 265. You can submit your project pitch. If you have your pitch invited, you will have then 12 months to submit your full proposal. Generally, we get back to you within 3 or 4 weeks, let you know how the pitch is for fit for the program. And you could follow this link here to submit your actual project pitch. You can only have one project pitch submitted at a time for review. And if you have a proposal under review, you cannot submit a second pitch until that proposal resolves, whether it be a declination or an award. And then what happens? You'll be invited to submit a full proposal. You have a year to submit that proposal. Or we'll say, you know what, we need a little bit more information. And so we'll send you a notification that says this is incomplete. You need to send us some more information, ask some specific questions. Or we may determine that it isn't a great fit for the program, in which case we'll let you know that. The purpose of the project pitch is really to give you feedback at a very early stage so you don't put a lot of time and effort into putting together a proposal. It takes a lot of work to put together a proposal. And I love that there are companies out there like Rupak that are helping that, because it can be very difficult to navigate that process. And so this is part of why we've implemented this project pitch, to help facilitate that, let entrepreneurs know at an early stage, you know, this is a great fit once you apply for NSF, or this isn't a great fit, you might want to look elsewhere. Lastly, and this is all I'll jump into at this point, please sign up for our mailing list. You can find more about our program there. You want to learn more about the program as well, feel free to volunteer to be a reviewer. I love working with new reviewers. It can teach you a lot about the program, what the review criteria looks like, you know, in a more direct manner. I'll leave this up here and happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
This is terrific. Thank you so much, Erik. Thanks for all our panelists for their presentations.